Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today we're taking a look at how to know if a pre-built is any good value. So instead of having me or someone else like me or someone in the review section of any sort of product trying to persuade you or dispersuade you, I don't know what the opposite of persuade is, but if they're trying to take their opinion on if it's a good value machine or if it's not. So I kind of want to talk to you guys on how to problem solve and kind of figure out how to know if a PC is a good value proposition on its own instead of having to rely on all these other sources. Alright, so before we get into the video, if you guys watched the whole thing through or just watched a good portion of it and ended up liking it, please hit that like button. It really helps me out as a creator. And if you guys like the content on the channel, you guys can hit that subscribe button. I make content fairly regularly. Again, it just depends on my schedule and my ability to turn out as much content as possible. As well, guys, we have a channel Discord if you guys have any tech questions or just want to talk tech to other enthusiasts. It's a great environment to do that. I'm fairly active on there, so if you guys just want to have some direct conversation with me, want my help with something like that, you can @hardwarejunkie me on the server, or you can just get a @helper and they'll probably be a little bit faster than me being able to get your response. But yeah, guys, go check out those links in the description and I'll see you guys in the video. So parts value is going to be what the actual value of the parts are. So if you take a PC part picker list of all the parts that are in the PC, add them together, see how close they are to market rate values within a range of $102, because that's going to be the price that the OEM or the company that is building the PC is going to charge on top of those parts for a build fee, as well as like a warranty or something like that. I guess there's some little extra features that they'll throw into that cost. So making sure that you have good part value is pretty important, but also having upgrade value is a really important part of having a well-functioning desktop PC, and making sure that you're not going to be spending a whole lot of money in the long run, but you're going to be spending a little bit more in the short term, but you're going to be saving a heck of a lot of money in the long term. And mainly upgrade value is how far are you going to be able to upgrade this machine in the future? How many more CPUs can you go through on this set of motherboards, and how much voltage this power supply is going to be able to put out for future parts. Alright, so I want to take a look at an example of good part value. So this is a company called iBuyPower, and they sell some pretty decent gaming PCs. They're pretty much the ones that I go to for a mainstream brand that sells kind of custom gaming PCs, because their margins really aren't that egregious compared to a lot of other companies out there. And basically all their PCs kind of stay around the same price range of $100 to $200 more than what you're going to build with a PC part picker build. So here is the spec list for the PC that I have with iBuyPower. If you guys want to take a look at it, it might not be that important to you, but these are all the same specs I'm using for the PC part picker that I put together over here. And so we'll take a look at it. So this is going to be all of the exact same stuff. I think the RAM is going to be a little bit different, but it's probably going to be around the same price. And so this one comes in at close to $1,200. And this one is around $1,300. So again, there's that $100 extra that you're going to be paying for them putting it all together for you, as well as kind of getting that part warranty and stuff like that in case the PC dies within a year. You get that that safety and that guarantee that they're going to have to make sure that they take a look at it and fix all the problems. Alright, so if you can find a system that's actually pretty decent on PC part picker, when you put the whole thing out and figure out how much it's going to cost for you to build it versus for the company to build it themselves for you, and it seems like a pretty decent deal, the next thing you want to do is compare against what else is on the market, because a lot of times companies will combat each other at around the same price points, and sometimes they'll offer better performance than what another company can offer, just because they're trying to get that competitive edge against that other company. So I did change this PC around a good bit, so I want to make sure that we could get the best value system out there that iBuyPower will have at a pretty good price point. So we're going to be spending around $1,300, and this is a really great gaming PC. You've got a AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT, which is an amazing video card at this price point, as well you've got an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X processor, again another great processor. This CPU is going to be performing extremely well in single core tasks, which is going to be programs like gaming, as well as also going to be amazing in multi-threaded tasks, which is going to be anything like video rendering or streaming or anything like that that is workload intensive, that makes you have to render a bunch of different assets into one cohesive thing. That's me using a lot of CPU power. As well, you've got a pretty good motherboard. You've got 16 gigabytes of RAM. This is clocked at 3200 megahertz, which is kind of what you want when you have a Ryzen processor. Now, this is another computer that is on the market, and this is a Digital Storm Lynx. Now, this is their $1,300 version of a gaming computer that they sell, and I definitely don't think it's nearly as good as value as what you can put together on an iBuyPower site. So for their processor, they do have a worse processor, a Intel Core i7-9700F. It's going to have around the same single core performance as the processor in the iBuyPower system, though it's going to have much worse multi-threaded performance compared to the system that is in the iBuyPower system. As well, the motherboard is going to be much worse. You're using an Intel H310 chipset, which was the cheapest chipset that you can buy from Intel at that time that these chips were being used. And in terms of storage, you only have 240 gigabytes of solid state storage, and then you've got 2 terabytes of hard drive storage. And then for your graphics card, you're having a GeForce RTX 2060, which it's kind of close to a RX 5700 XT, but it's going to be lacking in mostly every area. It's just going to have less horsepower overall. It's going to have less memory. It's just not going to perform as well. It is going to have ray tracing, but an overall kind of summary of both of them is that this is going to be worse than what you're going to be getting with the iBuyPower system. And another thing I want to talk about is how to know if the parts are going to be better. So a lot of times the company is going to give you the specs. So if you pick up this spec sheet, it lists every single spec that is on here. So a lot of times you can just copy and paste what you're going to have in there. And then you can go to the opposing side that you're going to be looking at buying from, and then copy and paste that processor from here. So you just copy and paste Intel Core i9-9700F, and then you can go and search online and watch some YouTube videos and see their difference in performance on a bunch of different things. As in games, you can see their Cinebenchmarks, which is a really good benchmark overall for CPUs. You can see their single core and multi-core performance off of that one benchmark. So if you go and search up, Intel Core i7-9700F versus Ryzen 7 3700X Cinebench, you'll see that a Cinebench run will come up, and you can see how much performance those two are going to have compared to each other. Now, you can do this with most parts. You can do this with GPUs. You can have them run different benchmarks to see which one is going to do better. Now, there are some features in different GPUs, but overall gaming performance is really going to be the biggest factor for a lot of people when you're picking out a good GPU. So if you're looking to buy a PC with some older parts in it, a lot of times you're going to have to understand how the used market works and what the pricing should be. So if you're looking at this CPU here, this is an Intel Core i5-4670. Now this is a 4th generation i5, so this is a pretty dated processor, but it still works and it's still pretty good at most tasks that you need it to do, as long as it's not doing anything crazy like 4K rendering or anything like that, but it should be great for gaming. Now, if you would go onto Intel's website, you would see that the i5-4670 is at a recommended price of $224. Now, this was at the initial release of it. So a lot of people, if you were just to look at this number, you would think, okay, well, half of that is probably about what they would sell for now, and then maybe, a little bit less. So you probably say around like $90. But to be honest, no, you shouldn't be paying anywhere close to $100 for a processor like this because of their datedness. So a lot of the times, to kind of see if you're getting decent value on used parts, like you would see from this company called Max Fairs, they are a pretty big budget brand. So when you're looking at a used part or a older part that is an i5-4670, the best place to go that I like to go to is eBay. So this is a Core i5-4670. This is just the CPU. It is used. And it does not come with anything. It is just the bare chip. So this sells for around $50. Now it's going to be a little bit more tax. So that's actually a pretty decent price. So how are you going to gauge that with your PC? So the two most expensive parts in a computer are usually going to be the CPU and the GPU, whereas the GPU should cost a little bit more than CPU because the GPU is going to be doing most of the work when it comes to gaming. So I'd rather spend more on a GPU than I would on the CPU. Now, if you were to go into a PC part picker list or just make your own spreadsheet off of prices that you gather from eBay, this all comes around to the price that they kind of list it for, which is $460, which is a great price for a PC with this kind of specs. But a lot of times different companies will use processors that are much older than this, maybe a second series Core i5, which is be like a 2600, and they'll kind of put it at the same level as this processor and around the same pricing, which it really shouldn't be at. So just making sure that you are understanding the used market, especially when it comes to these older parts, is going to be pretty big. And then so for the last thing that I want to talk about for the intrinsic part value is going to be looking at reviews, and that's going to be really third-party reviews. Now a lot of times you can't really trust reviews on a company's own website because sometimes, you know, they'll write their own reviews and try to make their thing seem a little bit more favorable than it actually might be. So I like to go on Amazon and check out that computer for myself and read the reviews, because on Amazon the actual people are going to be the ones who are leaving reviews, and if it were going to be the seller writing the reviews, the seller would have to put in a lot of time and, you know, effort into it instead of actually just publishing it on their own website. So I trust Amazon a little bit better. So the second part of figuring out if your computer is going to be good value or not is going to be seeing if it's going to be upgradable in the future and how upgradable it is. So let's take a look at AMD's processors and their motherboards. So a lot of times your motherboard is going to be what restricts you to your upgradability. And so you want to be able to make sure that you can take a look at your motherboard and see if it is going to be able to give you enough headroom in the future to get a good couple of upgrades, and then, you know, maybe 10 years down the line you might have to buy a new motherboard or a new system altogether. So AMD actually makes it fairly easy to understand. They create slides like this for people to understand what processors can go in which motherboards. So as you can see, there are different processors that can make their way to different chipsets. So you've got your 1000 series processors can use all of these different chipsets, but once you start to getting to the 500 series chipsets, you cannot use a 1000 series CPU, and it just kind of goes along with that. And then this is going to be their next generation of CPUs, and they're going to for sure be supported on the 500 series chipsets, but we do not know how far they're going to go. Now that doesn't mean that you are going to have to move to a new motherboard. Most people don't start on the highest end i9s. A lot of people will start around the i5 range, and then you can upgrade to maybe the i7 or i9 within that generation. And then once you kind of, you know, get the performance that you need out of that, then you can go to the next generation that's supported by that motherboard, and then go to their i9s, because by that time the prices are going to have dropped. So it doesn't mean that you need to just jump from generation to generation. You can kind of move around in the same generation, even if it's a bit older. Now I know we probably skipped over some things that I am forgetting right now that might be really important to buying a brand new gaming PC. And if you still have unanswered questions, again, say them in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to get to them if they are important. I guess if they're just a dumb question, if it's like, should I buy this computer or should I buy this computer? It's like, I can't really answer that one straight away because there's different use cases and all that different stuff. But if you give me a really good question and I can kind of make an answer for you, then I'll be sure to answer it for you as well. You can go into the Discord, I guess, ask as many stupid questions as you want, and we'll still answer them there, but comment section is a little bit iffy on that. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. This one took a lot of time and effort for me to do, so again, please leave that like if you guys liked the video and subscribing for more content. You know, it really helps me out. I'm a small creator, but you know, I'm working on being better. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.